The world remembers Princess Diana as the people's princess, a fashion icon, a humanitarian. But there's another title that often follows her name, the Rebel Princess. We've all seen the headlines, the photos of her breaking royal protocol, the black dress, the candid interviews, the landmine walk. It's easy to see these moments as simple acts of defiance, a modern woman chafing against a stuffy, ancient institution. But what if I told you the real reason Diana rebelled had nothing to do with wanting to be a rebel at all? What if her rebellion wasn't an act of aggression, but an act of survival? To understand Diana's so-called rebellion, we have to go back to the beginning, long before the palace walls and the constant flash of cameras. Imagine being a young girl, just 6 years old, and your mother leaves. Not just the house, but the family. This was Diana Spencer's reality. The divorce of her parents was deeply traumatic, leaving a profound sense of abandonment that would echo throughout her life. She once said she felt like a nuisance who was shunted between her parents. This early wound created a deep, lifelong craving for love, stability, and acceptance. She wasn't born a rebel. She was born a sensitive soul searching for a secure and loving home. When Prince Charles entered her life, he seemed like the answer to everything. Here was a handsome prince, the future King of England, offering her a fairy tale. At just 19, Diana was swept into a world that promised security and, most importantly, love. She believed she had finally found her happily ever after. The public certainly thought so. The wedding of the century was a global spectacle, a moment of pure optimism. Diana, shy and hopeful, truly believed she was marrying the man who loved her. She thought her search was over. But the fairy tale quickly crumbled. The reality of royal life was cold, isolating, and suffocating. The firm, as the royal family is known, operates on a strict set of unwritten rules. Never complain, never explain, and always put duty before personal feelings. For a woman like Diana, who was so emotionally open and craved genuine connection, this environment was like a cage. She wasn't just marrying a man. She was marrying an institution that demanded the suppression of her very identity. And then there was the shadow that loomed over her marriage from the very beginning. Camilla Parker Bowles. Diana knew about Charles and Camilla's deep connection even before she walked down the aisle. She famously said, "There were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded." This wasn't just a simple affair. It was a constant, painful reminder that the love and security she so desperately craved were being given to someone else. The man who was supposed to be her protector was the source of her deepest heartbreak. Imagine the loneliness, the feeling of being trapped in a golden cage while your husband's heart belongs to another. This wasn't a teenage drama. It was a profound betrayal that struck at the core of her childhood insecurities. Her struggles with bulimia and her cries for help were dismissed or ignored by the royal establishment. She felt invisible, unheard, and utterly alone. This is the crucial turning point. When you are systematically silenced, when your pain is ignored, what do? You find another way to speak. You find another way to be seen. And that is the true origin of Diana's rebellion. It wasn't about breaking rules for the sake of it. It was about finding her voice when the institution tried to take it away. Her first act of rebellion was through her clothes. Royal fashion was meant to be conservative, modest, and forgettable. Diana turned it into a language, the revenge dress. That stunning black off-the-shoulder number she wore the night Charles publicly confessed his adultery wasn't just a fashion statement. It was a declaration of independence. It said, "You may have tried to break me, but I am still here, and I am stronger than you think." Every outfit, from her casual jeans and sweatshirts to her glamorous gowns, was a way of communicating her mood, her personality, and her defiance of the stuffy expectations placed upon her. She was telling the world who she was, one outfit at a time. Then she took control of her own narrative. In 1992, she secretly collaborated with author Andrew Morton on the book Diana, Her True Story. This was an unprecedented, earth-shattering move. For the first time, a senior royal was telling their side of the story, unfiltered. She spoke about her loneliness, her bulimia, the affair, and her unhappiness. The palace was horrified. This broke every rule in their book. But for Diana, it was an act of liberation. It was her saying, "You will not define me. I will define myself." She was taking the power back from the institution that had tried to render her powerless. Her most powerful act of rebellion, however, was in her humanitarian work. The royal family had a long tradition of charity, but it was often formal and distant. Diana revolutionized it. She didn't just cut ribbons. She connected with people on a human level. When she shook the hand of an AIDS patient without gloves in 1987, it was a moment that changed the world. At a time when fear and misinformation were rampant, this simple, compassionate gesture challenged the stigma and showed the world that people with AIDS were not to be feared, but to be embraced. It was a deeply human act, and in the context of the monarchy's traditional detachment, it was profoundly rebellious. She did the same with her campaign against landmines. Walking through a minefield in Angola was not just a photo op. It was a powerful political statement that put pressure on governments worldwide. She was using her platform not just for polite charity work, but to effect real, tangible change, even if it made the establishment uncomfortable. In her work, she found the purpose and unconditional love she had always craved. The people she helped didn't care about royal protocol. They saw her kindness, her empathy. In their eyes, she wasn't a troubled princess, she was a hero. Her humanitarian work wasn't an escape, it was her true calling, the place where she could finally be the person she was always meant to be. So, when we look back at Princess Diana, let's look beyond the rebel label. Her rebellion wasn't born from a desire to cause trouble. It was born from a desperate need to survive, to be heard, and to be loved. It was the cry of a sensitive soul trapped in an unfeeling system. She wasn't trying to tear down the monarchy. She was trying to carve out a space within it where she could breathe, where she could be herself. She taught us that true strength isn't about conforming. It's about having the courage to speak your truth, even when your voice shakes. She used her pain not to build walls, but to build bridges to others who were suffering. In the end, Diana's greatest rebellion was simply her refusal to be silenced. It was her insistence on being human, on being compassionate, and on being simply Diana. And that is why, decades later, the world still can't get enough of her. Thank you so much for watching. What are your thoughts on Diana's story? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe for more deep dives into history's most fascinating figures. See you next time.